Having already completed the Organizing Hierarchical Protocol, OHP, and the first introduction to scope in the previous modules, we're going to go very close to scale here. As we get on, we're still on scope because we're going to talk about context. This is, as we start thinking about context, this is where scale starts entering the picture. We're not quite there yet, but this is the first introduction of scale within this particular model. As you will note, I have lectures, I have a small group facilitator, I have a large meeting, small group, individuals, classroom, and then a service audit. So let's break it down and talk about those. The lecturer. This is the mass lecturer, and in the way I've put it there, if you're listening to a webinar or if you're in a classroom lecture setting with 300 people, the participation level of, in most cases, I won't say totally because I've done this in the past, the participation level of the paid member that wants to weigh in my work and comment is probably the only interaction between me and the audience, is to comment on them and call them out for making a valuable comment or asking a valuable question within the context of the lecture series, which elevates their status or their stature within the community. Okay. In this particular case, I'm not monetizing that. I'm doing it mainly for their recognition so that people know that there's a motivation going for them to attain that call out. Okay. Small group facilitator. Within the spreadsheet, I have that broken down. You're going to be facilitating 5 members, and you will be the facilitator. Okay, as a paid member, as a facilitator, you're going to pay to use, I'm teaching you to facilitate a brainstorming session with at least 5 people, maybe 5 to 7. I forget how I put it in the spreadsheet. Hopefully I'll remember to talk about this later on. On group level size, the optimal level is 5 to 7 people. Any larger than that in a small group setting is you start having 2 groups talking to each other instead of a small group. And that's why it's structured this way, is 5 to 7 people. You know, that depends on me adjusting the responsive facilitator, but generally when it starts getting to 8, 8 and 9 becomes a little bit more problematic. I could live with 8. 9, you have a group of 4 on one end of the table and a group of 5 on the other end. That's usually unwieldy. So I would probably break them down into a group of 8. Even then, you could easily have 2 groups of 4 at the end of a table. And this is where you want to look at your table structure. If you've got a round top, meaning a round table, then more than likely you're not going to have 2 groups of 4 evolving. But if you have the normal cafeteria tables where it's narrow in the middle and long, then the possibility of that happens because the ends of the table are setting so far away that they're more than likely to use their positions at the ends of the table to dominate the conversations of the people that are close by. Okay, that's way more than you need to know, but it's something for you to consider as a facilitator. The next one is large group meeting. This is where scale really comes in. Large group meetings, and the paid member you're joining. So you get a chance to join a brainstorming webinar for taking your ideas and fleshing them out. Now, they can break that down into as a participation. They can do it as a critic. They can do it as the content creator, or they can do it as a lurker, meaning lurker is an old internet phrase where they don't participate at all. They're just there to observe. But if they're going to step out and they're going to be active participants, then I'm going to charge them for access to the tribe. And it may be as little as an extra $10, $5, but it's going to be more than the participants there, because I want to create value for the members, and I want to separate the members and being able to say something like, he paid for the time to do this. I need you guys to quieten down so that he can get his value out of the session that he paid for and he's entitled to get from you. Okay, small group. This is an exclusive set, and what you're doing here is you're going into your tribe and you're finding something that resonates with them, and you're going to give them a way to step up and get in front of a small group to really hone in my parlance, to deep dive either on a marketing strategy or the idea itself, flesh it out, those types of things prior to their execution. And that means within the lean startup, you're looking for your early adopters and you're looking for your audience, and I'm willing to let you access to those people by inviting them to have a small group with you being able to talk to them about it, your idea, and flesh it out. This would be a good example of what is known as a mastermind group, or within Benjamin Franklin terms, a junta. I believe that's correct. And the way he did it is he had for years had a small group of businessmen that he went and debated politics and medicine and society and trends, and they got along, didn't get along for years and years and years. It's an ongoing thing. He didn't monetize it, but he got benefits out of it, and it's in his autobiography. So it's something that you might want to consider, whether you had considered that or not. When you look at individuals, you will see the paid member joins a 60-minute strategy call with me. Now, that one-on-one time is worth more to them than the lecture. So I'm going to actually charge a little bit more for them, and hopefully I'll remember to talk about this when we get into the revenue side. But it takes more of my time to do one-on-one sessions because I have to prepare for them, and the member will also have to prepare for them. So you want to use this as a gatekeeper function so that people that want to do that are willing to pony up and pay for that privilege so that you increase your revenues and they increase their commitment. Classroom. This is a prestigious event. This is where we just talked about the individual, so they're stepping out. But this is where a group of people step out and they join a prestigious event. Might be a mastermind group or a mastermind of mastermind groups. As you build your tribe together and have them interact with each other, one of the things that I know from working at NASA is intergroups seldom socially interact with each other. That's why they become siloed and they become unhappy in that they don't have a lot of contact with the other people in the organizations who they might have a lot in common with, but the way the work is structured, they become siloed and it becomes an echo chamber to them, and their belief systems and value systems go into play within that echo chamber. Well, this is a way for you to break that out, and the way I've done it here, or the way I have it planned to do, is that these things happen twice a year. These are elite events. They're like, you might want to call them your elite circle or prestigious circle or gold circle, or however you put it together in the OHP. Stay with it. What I'm thinking here is this is twice a year. What I'm wanting to do, what I want to do is I'm going to put together an event with very few people for them to come and socialize in a destination city, mainly around the beach or the mountains. I have in my belief system that there are beach people and mountain people, and that the beach people grew up going to the beach and the mountain people grew up going to the mountains, and you want to put something in there so that you use that. Now, there are the other group that you traveled and you went to cities. And I'm taking care of that with the destination city in a lot of ways, but it's a destination city at a beach. In particular, for this particular exercise, as I was putting together the spreadsheet, it was from Seattle. I was doing cost estimates from Seattle to Key West in Florida. It's about as far in the continental U.S. that I could think of to get a conservative cost estimate as I was putting together the flight for this particular group. And it would be all expenses paid, and that includes their spouse and their children, because as they get there, we were likely to do more than one morning. We'll do 3 morning sessions, but we'll be done by noon, and it's a good way for them to refresh and reconnect with the tribe and introduce their spouse and their families to the tribe if they have one. If they have a spouse or tribe, they can bring who they want. They paid for it, so they can bring whoever they want. But the way I was thinking about it is to bring your families together and create an even internal tribe and set it up to where the families get used to hanging around each other. When they get together, they know that they're going to get to see their friends from across the country at a tribal event, and they've paid to do that because it's all expenses. I'm not absorbing that expenses. I'm just creating the event so they can come together and hang out with their friends, and they're going to get to go somewhere pretty cool. And I think I didn't mention this, but particularly I'm thinking Key West would be something along the lines of the first of the year, New Year's Eve, something, so they would come on New Year's Eve. The second event that I'm thinking of is 6 months later, approximately, in 4th of July, and this is more than likely to be a beach or a mountain event because I'm tapping into 2 different value sets there. There are people who love to go to the beach, people who love to go to the mountains. I mentioned that. I've not quite bought into the mountains in January or in December. I'm just not put up that way, but it doesn't mean I can't do it. It means I would wait until the tribe said, why don't you do this at Lake Tahoe in January or at the start of the year, December 31st. That is an option for you as you start thinking through events and situations. This particular event would be the Impresario, because they are more than likely going to do most of the content creation, and you will be there only as somebody who organizes the events and promotes it, and then when it's over, it's done until the next one happens. The final one on this particular sheet, service audit, the way I'm thinking about that is actually drawn from the NASA Goddard way that they do organization development there, or they did. And the way that I think about this is on a yearly basis, I would come in and do a communication audit that would last for a week. The member would be entitled, I think this is the highest level that I have within the spreadsheet. The member would pay for that service audit, and all we would have to do is schedule it. Because once they're at that level, I'm going to accommodate their schedule. They would not necessarily accommodate mine unless there's an opening or something and I'm able to do it sooner. What I do is go in and do a communication audit on their company, and that's specifically going in and doing listening and group facilitation of the employees and giving the report back to the senior leadership, back to them without sanitizing it, meaning that I'm not going to change what I hear but I am going to report it back to them, and they can make modifications. They can spin it or reframe it to suit their purposes, but it is essentially intel for them to know how their organization is functioning. So that I'm taking what I have done for many years and have done, I think, fairly well in doing service audits of an organization by doing a listening exercise and interviews. And they're just doing it to get that on a yearly basis because it's feedback for them whether they've improved or not, instead of surveys. Doesn't mean I'm not going to do surveys. I have different tools that do that for organizations other than surveys that are better, in my opinion. But that doesn't mean that they're not useful. There you have joining the service offering descriptor to a context with a group size. So you can look at that and say, oh, okay, well, that's going to take me more time to do, and I should charge a commensurate price with it. Regardless, this is one of those columns, once again, pointing it out, that it's a plus column and it's for you to modify. And we could easily do this on an individual level during a call, or we could do it on a strategy session during a call for the course. Next, we're going to go into a little greater detail on scale as we bring in numbers and talk about conversions, or reframe it to suit their purposes, but it is essentially intel for them to know how their organization is functioning. So that I'm taking what I have done for many years and have done, I think, fairly well in doing service audits of an organization by doing a listening exercise and interviews. And they're just doing it to get that on a yearly basis because it's feedback for them whether they've improved or not, instead of surveys. Doesn't mean I'm not going to do surveys. I have different tools that do that for organizations other than surveys that are better, in my opinion. But that doesn't mean that they're not useful. There you have joining the service offering descriptor to a context with a group size. So you can look at that and say, oh, okay, well, that's going to take me more time to do, and I should charge a commensurate price with it. Regardless, this is one of those columns, once again, pointing it out, that it's a plus column and it's for you to modify. And we could easily do this on an individual level during a call, or we could do it on a strategy session during a call for the course. Next, we're going to go into a little greater detail on scale as we bring in numbers and talk about conversions. Go into a little greater detail on scale as we bring in numbers and talk about conversions.